All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the creative blueprint for a proposed DC Black Label series called Dark Hollow. And believe me, this is way more than just another comic book pitch. We're talking a deep, deep dive into existential horror, some heavy philosophy, and a total reinvention of a really powerful character.
And this right here, this quote just sets the stage perfectly. I mean, think about it. You take Grail, the daughter of Darkseid, one of the biggest bads in the entire DC universe, and you drop her into this intimate, creepy, psychological ghost story. It's this incredible collision of grand, cosmic mythology and quiet, atmospheric dread.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll define what makes this horror story so different. Then we're going to meet our protagonist, Grail, and see who she is before everything changes. After that, we'll dig into the terrifying philosophy at the heart of it all, map out her wild character arc, and finally, take a look at the business plan that makes this whole thing tick. Okay, first up, a new kind of horror. The entire identity of Dark Hollow really hinges on a very specific and honestly pretty challenging type of fear. This isn't about jump scares, it's about what gets inside your head.
The genre here is called existential horror. So, what does that even mean? Well, it means the scares don't come from a monster jumping out of a closet. The real terror comes from facing cosmic forces so huge, so indifferent, that they completely shatter our understanding of right and wrong. It's the kind of fear that forces you to question everything you think you know.
So now let's talk about our protagonist, Grail. Because to really understand the radical change she's about to go through, we have to know exactly who she is at the very beginning of this story.
You might be expecting some battle-hardened warrior, right? Daughter of Darkseid and all that. But nope, she actually enters the story as an outcast Amazonian, historian, an academic. Her whole motivation is just intellectual curiosity. She's drawn to this town, Dark Hollow, by these powerful visions of some ancient, amoral power, and she's there to study it, not to fight it.
And this is absolutely crucial. Let's look at her starting position. Her moral code is based on traditional Amazonian values. Honor, justice, you get the picture. And her power, this connection to the anti-life equation, is totally passive. It's like she can feel the darkness in Dark Hollow, but she can't do anything about it. This entire framework she's working with is, to quote the source material, utterly inadequate for what she's about to face.
This brings us to the real heart of the horror. You see, the monsters haunting Dark Hollow aren't really ghosts or ghouls. They're terrifying philosophical ideas drawn straight from the work of Friedrich Nietzsche. And that's such a radical choice, because it suggests the greatest threat isn't some evil you can fight, but the collapse of the very ideas we use to define ourselves as good.
This comparison shows the difference so well. Conventional horror gives us external threats, monsters we can fight. But the existential horror in Dark Hollow, it's designed to cause an internal collapse. It's supposed to make the reader question their own beliefs right alongside Grail. This isn't about good versus evil. It's about a human moral code coming face to face with an amoral cosmos.
The entire narrative runs on these three pillars. You've got the will to power, which turns the spirits into these beings driven by a raw, primal force, not simple evil. Then you have eternal recurrence, which becomes a literal ghost story loop, trapping victims in an endless cycle of suffering. And finally, the revaluation of morality, which is the core challenge. What do you do when the ethics you were raised with are just useless?
And these philosophical ideas are made terrifyingly real through the antagonists. The dragon deer isn't just a monster, it's a living argument against memory and identity. And the wyvern tiger? It's the physical embodiment of nihilism, a creature whose only purpose is to literally erase existence.
So how does a hero fight an idea? Well, she can't. She has to become something more. So let's break down the deliberate, four-stage arc of Grail's descent and her ultimate, terrifying ascension.
Her journey is a direct response to this philosophical horror. First, her Amazonian code fails, and it fails spectacularly. This forces her to abandon it and accept her dark heritage. It's the only tool that might actually work. As she does this, her power shifts from just perceiving dark energy to actively controlling it. And finally, she becomes this Übermensch, a figure beyond good and evil who has to create her own morality to face a reality that has none.
This metaphor from the pitch documents just captures the depth of this change perfectly. This isn't about her learning a new skill, it's a fundamental recreation of her very essence. She has to melt down her own soul to forge the weapons she needs just to survive.
Now, a vision this ambitious needs the right home, right?
So let's look at the practical production plan and see why DC's Black Label imprint is described as the series' only logical home.
DC Black Label is designed specifically for mature, standalone stories. This gives the creators total freedom to explore these complex philosophical themes without being tied to mainstream continuity. It allows them to tell this dark, uncompromising story exactly the way it needs to be told.
The production plan is aggressive, and it's designed for maximum impact. The goal is to release a full arc, that's a total of 12 issues every single year.
And to pull that off, the release schedule has to be relentless. We're talking 2 issues hitting the stands every single month. This strategy is designed to maintain this intense narrative momentum, to make sure that philosophical dread never loses its grip on you, the reader. The long-term strategy is just as ambitious. The story is planned as a multi-year epic, and it would ultimately be collected into 6 complete volumes. This ensures the series isn't just a monthly comic, but a lasting work of literary horror that'll have a place on bookshelves for years to come.
And this brings us to the central question of the entire series. It's the tragic irony at the heart of Grail's journey. To protect the very moral systems that define humanity, she has to abandon them herself, becoming this self-defined force of nature. So, the question is, to save humanity, must you become something other than human? It's a question that's meant to leave you thinking long after the last page is turned.